He told Gwendolyn he wasn't coming. Now suddenly he's coming.
How's it going?
My boyfriend, David.
David, nice to meet you.
Kody. Robin, David. Hi.
Nice.
Okay, picture this. You're watching TV and suddenly everything gets super quiet. Like, scary quiet. You know that feeling when someone is about to say something really big? That's exactly what happened on Sister Wives. There was this guy named David sitting there, and he looked calm on the outside, but you could tell he was angry inside. Not screaming and dealing angry, but the kind of angry that means business now. David is new to all this Sister Wives drama. He's married to Christine, who used to be married to this guy named Kody, and let me tell you, Kody is, well, he's a lot. He's the main guy who is married to 4 different women at the same time. Yeah, 4 wives. Can you imagine? So anyway, David is sitting there during this big TV show where everyone talks about their problems. And instead of staying quiet, like most new people would, he did something nobody expected. He looked right at Kody and said what everyone watching at home has been thinking for years. He basically said, hey, this isn't love. This is you being mean and controlling these women. Now, here's the crazy part. David didn't yell or throw a fit. He just said it like he was talking about the weather. But somehow that made it even more powerful. It's like when your mom uses her quiet voice when she's really disappointed in you. You know you're in trouble. For years and years, people have been watching this show and getting mad at their TVs. They'd be like, why doesn't someone tell Kody he's being mean? Or can't anyone see what's happening here? And finally, someone did. And it wasn't just anyone. It was the new guy who married one of Kody's ex-wives. David grew up around families like this, so he knows what he's talking about. He's seen how men like Kody make women feel bad about themselves. He's watched women smile and pretend everything is okay, when it's really not. And when he saw what happened to Christine, the woman he loves now, he couldn't stay quiet anymore. The best part? David didn't do it to be mean or to get famous. He did it because he loves Christine and he couldn't stand watching people pretend that the way she was treated was okay. It's like if your best friend was being bullied and you finally stood up for them. When David spoke up, you could feel something change. It wasn't just about one argument between 2 men, it was about years of women being told to be quiet, to smile, to accept being treated badly. And for the first time in a really long time, someone said, no, this isn't right. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into one of the most important moments in Sister Wives history. This is the story of how one quiet, steady guy changed everything just by telling the truth. Main script, he sat there looking calm, but there was anger in his eyes. David Woolley wasn't mad or dramatic, but what he said hurt more than any big fight ever could. Someone, a man, looked Kody Brown right in the face during the big TV show and said, what we've all been thinking for years. This isn't love. This is being controlling, and it's been hurting women for way too long. David could have stayed quiet. He's new to the Sister Wives world, right? Just Christine's new husband, the outsider. But instead, he did what Kody never thought would happen. He broke the silence. He didn't come with mean words or cheap tricks. He came with the truth. And for a man like Kody, who spent years making a fake perfect image, truth is the scariest thing of all. Hi friends, it's Helena and welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives News. If you're as shocked by what happened in that big TV talk as I am, you're TOC in the right place. Go ahead and click subscribe if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments. Did David say what you've been yelling at your TV for years, or did he go too far? Because this was never just about 2 men having a fight. This was like 2 different worlds crashing together. One world where a man built everything around secrets and control, and another world where someone refuses to pretend anymore. David's words didn't just challenge Kody. They cracked open years of hidden pain. They showed a system where women were told to smile, stay quiet, and give up everything for the family. And for the first time in a long time, someone finally said enough. David Woolley isn't just Christine's new husband. And that's exactly why his words hit so hard. See, a lot of people thought he was just the nice guy who showed up after the storm, a comforting person, a fresh start. And sure, he is those things. But what many people didn't know until the big TV talk is that David grew up around polygamy. He saw with his own eyes how it works. He knows the emotional tricks women have to do just to survive it. And when he sat there and told Kody the truth about what that life really does to women, he wasn't speaking from hearing about it. He was speaking from seeing it happen. That's what gives David's voice so much power. He didn't come in swinging, like someone trying to get famous. Just a man who's seen too much to stay quiet anymore. A man who looked at Christine, the woman he loves, and realized how deeply she'd been taught to put up with pain to give up her needs. to accept tiny bits of love and call it devotion. And he wasn't about to let that go without saying something when David called out the way polygamous men teach women to feel unsafe but still stay loyal. It shook something loose in people. Viewers weren't just hearing his words, they felt them. Because so many of us watched Christine for years with that fake smile, trying to hold herself together while slowly breaking inside. And now, here was a man, not a therapist, not a TV producer, but her actual husband telling the world what happened to her was not okay. And I won't pretend it was. David didn't just defend Christine. He stood for every woman in that family who was lied to into believing her pain was just part of the plan. He made it clear that love doesn't look like control, that faith doesn't mean silence, and most of all, that men can choose something better. He's living proof that you don't have to keep repeating the same bad pattern. You can break it. You can call it out, and when you do, you don't just help the women you love. You help every person watching who thought they had to stay quiet too. The moment David Woolley calmly challenged Kody Brown, you could practically feel the tension snap. Across the screen, Kody's reaction wasn't just offensive, it was explosive in that typical Kody way. Arms moving everywhere, voice getting louder, eyebrows locked in that familiar look of shock and anger. His body language said it all before he even opened his mouth, the crossed arms, the fake laughs, the leaning back in his chair like he was being attacked. Kody wasn't listening. He was getting ready for war. And the war was against being held responsible instead of listening to what David was saying. Instead of even pretending to think about it, Kody twisted it. He called it jealousy, misunderstanding, accusation. He painted David as someone who didn't get the family dynamic. Someone who had come in after everything happened and didn't know the full story, but here's the thing. Viewers knew. We've been watching for over 10 years, and the more Kody spoke, the clearer it became. This wasn't about David not understanding. This was about Kody being unable to handle someone seeing through him. You could see it in how he changed the subject. How he kept shifting the focus to Christine's betrayal, painting himself as the left-behind one, the victim of her emotional disrespect. And when he couldn't tear David down with logic, he leaned on emotion, outrage, mockery. That classic tone of "how dare you question me." He acted shocked, like he was appalled anyone would challenge his intentions. But that wasn't shock. That was ego cracking. And for longtime viewers, it felt like we'd seen this before. This is the same man who blamed Mary for being as if her loneliness was a personal attack on him. The same man who couldn't respect Janelle's boundaries and instead called her disloyal when she dared to choose independence. And of course, the same man who spun Christine's exit into a story about betrayal rather than the truth. That she finally had the courage to walk away from emotional neglect. So when Kody sat there trying to rewrite the story again, trying to paint David as the outsider and himself as the misunderstood father who just wanted unity, the audience didn't buy it. Not this time. We saw the performance. We saw the unraveling. And more importantly, we saw the truth that David's words dug up. That Kody isn't used to being called out by other men, especially not men who aren't afraid of him. For years, SisterWives showed us a version of polygamy that was dressed up in faith, framed as family first, and painted with a soft brush. But behind the family photos and carefully chosen words was a power structure that served one person above all, Kody Brown. And in the big TV talk, especially with David Woolley now in the picture, the mask finally started to crack. What viewers saw was something we'd felt in our gut for a long time. This wasn't about shared belief or divine calling. It was about control. It was about emotional manipulation. And it was about keeping the women in constant competition with each other. So, Kody could stay at the center of it all. Think back to those early seasons. Christine with that bright, bubbly energy, always smiling, always putting on a brave face. But behind that was real heartbreak. She was the third wife and somehow always treated like the scraps of Kody's attention she got. She had to fight for them. And who did he pit her against the most? Robyn, the new favorite? Kody didn't have to say the words. His actions screamed it. He showed up more for Robyn. He parented differently with her kids. He changed the rules when it came to her. And every time the other wives noticed or voiced hurt, he twisted it into jealousy, into them being dramatic or ungrateful. It was classic divide and conquer. This pattern repeated for years. Affection became a reward, not a given. Christine, Mary, Janelle, all of them were made to feel like their worth depended on staying in line, accepting crumbs, smiling through loneliness. And when one of them got tired of it, he rewrote history. Suddenly, they were the problem. They weren't supportive enough. Kody never acknowledged how he used emotional withdrawal as a weapon, or how he turned their shared life into a competition none of them could ever win. But now, in that big TV talk, David Woolley's presence shattered the illusion. Not just because he spoke up, but because he showed up. He didn't dominate Christine, he supported her. He didn't speak over her, he amplified her. He wasn't uncomfortable with her strength. He admired it, and that contrast, it was powerful. For fans, it was like someone finally opened a window after years of fog. We saw how love should feel. Not earned through sacrifice, not rationed based on obedience. Just given freely, fully, and without conditions. David didn't have to preach. He didn't have to lecture. Just by being there, being steady, being kind, he exposed everything Kody had spent years trying to hide. And that forced the entire show and the viewers to look at the real cost of polygamy when it's built on male ego instead of mutual respect. David didn't just speak truth. He helped Christine live it. And that's what made Kody spiral for over 10 years. TLC's SisterWives has carefully walked a tightrope, giving viewers just enough drama to stay hooked, while still protecting the larger idea of polygamy as a valid lifestyle choice. The network's formulas soften the blows, blur the lines, and give Kody endless chances to spin his version of reality. And nowhere is this more obvious than in the big TV talk specials. Instead of tough, raw accountability, we usually get a host who's walking on eggshells, asking surface-level questions and then backing off the moment things get uncomfortable. In this latest big TV talk, that same hesitation was front and center. The host seemed almost nervous to push too far. She asked Kody about the pain he caused, but let him veer off into his usual tangents about loyalty and betrayal. When Kody twisted his story to avoid responsibility, blaming Christine for breaking up the family or accusing Janelle of emotional detachment, there were no follow-up questions, no real pushback. It was like watching someone hand him the microphone and say, "Go ahead, say whatever makes you look good," and viewers noticed. They were frustrated, exhausted by the show's pattern of letting Kody control the narrative, even when that meant erasing the experiences of the women he hurt. But then came David Woolley. He didn't play along. He didn't couch his words in politeness or try to smooth things over. When he spoke about the damage he saw, about how women like Christine had been taught to accept pain as normal, it was clear, direct, and deeply personal, and you could feel the shift. Suddenly, the curtain was pulled back. David's honesty exposed how carefully the show had been protecting its central male figure for years. It wasn't just refreshing, it was necessary. Because David wasn't there to maintain the illusion. He was there to tell the truth. And in doing so, he forced the production, the host, and all of us watching at home to finally confront what this show and this man had been avoiding all along. For Christine, this big TV talk must have felt like more than just a TV moment. It was a full-circle reckoning. After years of questioning her own feelings, suppressing her needs, and smiling through the heartache, here was her husband, David Woolley, calmly and courageously validating every truth she'd tried to live with in silence. He said out loud what she wasn't allowed to say for decades. That this wasn't love, that what she went through wasn't okay, that polygamy in the way Kody practiced it wasn't about shared faith or divine purpose, it was about control. And as she sat beside him, you could see it in her eyes. Relief, pride, maybe even peace. Finally, someone stood up with her. Not behind her, not halfway. Fully, without hesitation. Janelle, though quieter, seemed just as affirmed. She's always been the steady one. Practical, composed, more private with her emotions. But that doesn't mean she didn't feel the weight of those years. David's words likely hit her hard. Not because they surprised her, but because they echoed what she'd buried deep just to survive. Her boundaries with Kody, her insistence on emotional respect, her refusal to chase after crumbs of affection. All of that now stood validated by an outsider who saw clearly what she had endured in silence. And then there's Mary, still hanging on, still trying to make sense of the wreckage. After all the betrayals, the catfishing scandal, Kody's public rejection, the years of emotional distance, she remains the most isolated. Watching this unfold with Christine finding new love and Janelle finding freedom, Mary looks like someone stuck between denial and grief. She gave her loyalty, her youth, her faith, and all she has left is silence. Her isolation is heartbreaking and painfully familiar to too many women who've been told to wait, to obey, to stay even when there's nothing left to stay for. This wasn't just another dramatic big TV talk. It was something deeper, a reckoning. What we saw wasn't just about one man, one marriage, or even one broken family. It was a mirror held up to a culture that has too often called control, love, and submission faith. For years, Kody sold the idea that his version of polygamy was about unity, divine calling, and mutual respect. But the reality laid bare through the pain of Christine, the silence of Janelle, and the loneliness of Mary told a different story. One of emotional manipulation and imbalance masked as spiritual duty. That's why David's voice mattered so much. He didn't come in loud or cruel. He came in with clarity, with strength, with truth. He said what so many viewers and maybe even the women themselves couldn't say all those years. And he didn't blink. Audiences aren't falling for the spin anymore. They're tired of seeing women hurt and then blamed for hurting. They're hungry for accountability, for real love, real healing, and real voices. And sometimes that voice shows up from the outside. Not to start drama, but to finally end the silence. Sometimes it takes the new guy to say the thing no one else dared to.